Tony Pulis is transforming the side into a more pacey unit than it was last season.
Yeah, Mr. Cruyff turned himself, Hal Robson-Kanu, just pretending that Bournemouth is Belgium and everything is right.
And the way he utilized Brendan Galloway against Middlesbrough last week was quite encouraging to see, because as soon as he bombed forward, young Sam Field robbed into the left back position.
Yeah.
So that's something which is quite rare to see when it comes to Tony Pulis' sides.
Yeah. Even fullbacks going forward.
Players bombing forward.
Yeah, that's not a Tony Pulis specialty, for sure. It's interesting for West Brom, for them, because they're always one of these teams that are really hard to watch. But they seem to always get results. All right, well that's nice. Let's go on and talk about some more games. You were quite interested in the Burnley versus Hull, the Championship promoted teams that have started off already with both have had sort of some cool, interesting wins, and Burnley are 13th and having defeated Liverpool in the famous Liverpool 80% possession game. And then Hull City have started out, with 2 wins, one over Leicester and one over Swansea, before losing pretty convincingly to Man United, even though it was just 1-0. But I think the shots were 29-8. So, which of these teams do you think has a better chance of staying up?
I think it has to be Hull.
Yeah.
But currently, the injury crisis that is ensuing over the club, I think they'll probably struggle for the early part of the season and then slowly recover. Because the way they played against Manchester United showed that they've got enough determination to hold their own against a side which has been tipped to win the Premier League this season. And it was good to see, because they've got a lot of players injured, and more than half of their bench is filled with players from the youth academy.
Yeah. I mean, from what I understand at Hull is they have this situation where the owner is sort of sick and on his deathbed, and sort of they're in limbo where they can't really make any serious moves. Although they did add another former Tottenham player, I think it makes 4 or 5 now, in Ryan Mason, who Spurs fans, he's like the Marwan Fellaini of Spurs fans. Everybody sort of detests him. But what about Burnley? I did see the game against Liverpool, and they looked. I don't want to say impressive, but they did take 2 goals pretty well. But I think some of that had to do with just Liverpool giving the ball away and getting counters. How do you see this match going, and how do you see sort of Burnley in the Premier League in the long term?
The thing about Burnley is that they've got nothing to lose this season. That's probably the reason why Sean Dyche is playing 2 up front, even against Chelsea away from home. Right. He used both Andre Gray and Sam Vokes up front, which is quite rare to see for a side like Burnley away from home. And they lost the game, but there were signs that they're probably a Premier League side. But against Hull at home, they can't pull off something like they did against Liverpool, because against Liverpool they gave them around 80% of possession, such that they nullify their counter of play, and they themselves play on the counter. So it's Hull City that'd be tough to do, because Hull are as big as Liverpool are.
Yeah, they're probably not going to have Hull City. Probably not going to get 80% possession. That's a safe bet.
Yeah. So midfield dominated game. Turf Moor has always been a place like that. A draw.
All right. Well, that's cool. I guess another match that is probably not very interesting is West Ham against Watford. I got a chance when I was in Europe over the first couple of weeks of the EPL season to watch 3 West Ham matches, which is probably more than most people should when Dimitri Payet is not playing. But now Payet is back. So you think that is going to make everything right at West Ham, who have looked pretty dismal, I would say, under Slaven Bilic this year? Or do you think there are some big problems?
The exit from Bowline Ground has probably affected them, because it was a place that was almost like a stadium where teams coming in just can't beat West Ham. And last season, they lost only 2 or 3 home games. 2 or 3. out of which one was against Spurs. So that aura about the club has gone.
Huh.
But I think this is going to be a win for them.
Yeah, I think we talked to the other sort of signing they made is Alvaro Arbeloa, who is going to come in back over the less than impressive Sam Byram, who I think I said this already, that he sort of was the guy who committed like 2 yellow card worthy fouls in one play in like 10 seconds. What about Watford? I mean, they've been sort of underwhelming under new manager Walter Mazzarri, who has had a lot of success in Italy, mostly with Napoli, not so much at Inter.
Yeah.
But and they have some pretty good names. I mean, if you look at sort of their midfield, Jan Mat, Roberto Pereira, Juventus, Valon Behrami, Capoue, I mean Holebas, these are all guys that are veterans that have played for semi big clubs or have been around big clubs. And then with Dini and Igalo, those are guys who've had excellent seasons, the first half of the seasons, I should say, last year. But for some reason, Watford have not performed against. Granted, they did play Arsenal and Chelsea, but what do you think of Watford this season and sort of their chances?
Well, last season, the dependency on the link-up between Troy Deeney and Odion Igalo was so much that both of them did quite well and almost pulled Watford out of the relegation zone early on, and they just didn't go down from that spot from then on. And I think with Roberto Pereira now at Watford, seeing them as a slightly better side. But again, I think it's going to be a mid-table finish for them. Or maybe around the relegation zones. We never know in the Premier League. Isaac's success has been brought in as well. He's got a lot of pace.
That's right.
So Walter Mazzarri has probably tried to induce a bit more of energy into the side, and with that 3-5-2, he wants to make sure that the focus on defending is slightly more.
Yeah, maybe I think that's going to be interesting, and I don't know if he's going to abandon that or what is going to take for him to abandon that. But I don't know. I have some doubts about Yunus Kabul at this stage of his career, or even somebody like Sebastian Trödel, who I've watched a few times in the Bundesliga. It never really like struck me as anything great. And I think the crazy thing that I saw against Arsenal from one of the passing maps. That I think they have these 3 guys in the back, but then Holebas, who was the sort of left fullback, and then Amrabat, who was on the right wing, they were so high up the pitch, higher than any of their midfield players, which can't be great.
Another thing about Watford is that Walter Mazzarri has to get his first team right, because the amount of team they've got in their team after signing some players over the summer. I think it's important for Walter Mazzarri to get his first team right, because if they can't do that, I think they'll struggle. Okay. They've got a lot of team depth.
Would you care for a prediction in this match?
Yeah, 2-0 to Watford. 2-0 to West Ham.
West Ham, okay. Yeah, that I don't know. I think that might be a little bit closer, but with Payet coming back, I think maybe West Ham are okay, but I don't know. I think I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham had sort of major troubles, and Slaven Bilic was on the hot seat. But anyway.
They didn't do quite well against Bournemouth. 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Eventually ended up winning 1-0.
Probably the second biggest match of the round is Liverpool hosting Leicester in the matchup of 2 teams who both have 4 points. And from 3 games, and they're 9th. Leicester's 9th, and then Liverpool is 11th. And I think sort of the underlying theme for both of these teams is kind of opposite, because Liverpool had that great win against Arsenal, and everybody was overreacting and crowning them top 3, top 4, and then the huge shocking loss to Burnley, and then a draw at Tottenham. Which I actually watched that.
Yeah, they should have won that maybe.
Yeah, and they probably should have won. It was I think it was a really, really high intensity, excellent match. And maybe if it wasn't for the Tottenham backup keeper Michel Worm, He probably saved at least 2 or 3 chances with his legs just coming out. But which Liverpool do you think will show up against Leicester here?
I don't know. It can be a game such as that one at Burnley, because Leicester are always happy to give a team as much possession as they want because they like to play in the big. So if Leicester do end up doing that, I see Liverpool in a spot of bother, because they're not too good in possession. We're not allowed and when they are not allowed to counter press off the ball, they struggle a bit.
Yeah. I think they did certainly struggled against Leicester last season. And speaking of Leicester, I mean they've had a strange start with the loss to Hull, and then the draw against Arsenal wasn't the most exciting games, and finally they beat sort of Swansea. I would say fairly convincingly, although Swansea are probably one of the worst teams in the league. And the big signing that they made on deadline day is Islam Slimani. To add some. Yeah. So where do you see Leicester going this season and in this match as well?
I think the problem early on in the season was that the loss of N'Golo Conte was quite. It did leave behind a bit of a dent in the midfield, because he was a really important part of Claudio Ranieri's side. And after his exit, Leicester seemed like a less organized midfield, with Nampalys Mendy not doing too well early on. But with a lot of pace, they've got a lot of pace in the side with Islam Slimani and Ahmed Musa. So I do see them finishing in the upper half. They will maybe around 7th or 8th.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. The Mendy is I think he's out. He's going to be out for a little bit because I think he came off in the Arsenal game.
Yeah,
and I'm not really seen how long, but he's going to be out. And yeah, that's still going to be a big hole there. With even though Danny Drinkwater is really good, I think he's one of the leaders in the league in sort of passing and organizing the midfield there. And
they've got problems at the back as well, because against Hull City, Luis Hernandez and Wes Morgan played, and the communication and link up between them was almost really poor.
Luis Hernandez has had a rough start.
Yeah,
I don't know how much we'll see of him now that Robert Huth is no longer suspended. But yeah, and I think Riyad Mahrez has had a strange start to the year where he's looked good a couple times, but
exactly.
He's also the leader in
fading in and out of games.
Yeah, he's also the leader in losing the ball in the EPL. I think he's got it's him and Joshua King of Bournemouth, but Mahrez is the leader in the unsuccessful dribbles category, which he has 13, and he's only got 6 that are successful. So that's an interesting part, because you wouldn't really think of that with Mahrez, who maybe he does have a tendency to hang on to the ball a little too long. But I think the change to Ahmed Musa and Slimani and Vardy, I don't know if they're going to be able to play together all at the same time. Probably
Ahmed Musa can actually play in the left as well, like he did against Arsenal after coming on for Demarai Gray. And Islam Slimani is also someone who can play out wide as well. So
it's
if Claudio Ranieri is intent on playing on the break against Liverpool, he's got to field both of them.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because Okazaki was so important for them last year, doing all the defensive work. But he looks like he's going to be sort of phased out a little bit. Well, good. Let's do 2 more games. So those are all the Saturday games. The Sunday match is Swansea, who are hosting Chelsea, who we haven't talked about. And Swansea had the 1 win against Burnley, 1-0, and then since then they've lost to Hull and to Leicester as well. And a lot of people are picking them for relegation. Do you think that's fair, or is it sort of too much to Swansea?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, because the strikers that Francesco Guidolin has brought in make the Swansea side a bit more one-dimensional than they were last season. Because Bora Baston and Fernando Llorente are not players who can take players on, more of those target men forward who.
Yeah, the big hulking target man. That's perfect. Mm-hmm.
So I do see them finishing. I actually a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the relegation zone.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably agree with you, and I